Welcome to the MVP Show. Today I chat with self-professed technophile who wishes to share his passion, especially for business applications in PowerApps. I'm happy to welcome to the show Matthieu Megaly, straight from Switzerland. Full show notes can be found at nz365guy.com/92. Now let's get on with the show. Hi, Matthieu. Welcome to the MVP Show.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, so you're an MVP that I don't think I've met before. Is that right? We've not met in person, have we?
That's perfectly right. And maybe that's also because I haven't been to any MVP summits right now. So maybe if I go there once, we'll have the opportunity to meet.
Yeah, that would be great. So anyhow, tell us a bit about you. Where do you originate from in this lovely world?
I'm from France, and I'm from also Paris, but right now I'm working in Switzerland, but I'm based on France. I became an MVP since 2 years right now, focused on the business application side and more precisely on PowerApps and Flow solutions.
Okay, so how did you come about becoming an MVP?
Well, it's been a long time that I was passionate about Microsoft tools, Microsoft products. And I started writing about Microsoft tools since maybe right now 7 years. First on my personal website, my blog, and just to talk about a few things about SharePoint or forms or workflows, automated processes. And I just keep on writing on that, blogging about that subject. And then I discovered mobile applications. So I started developing some mobile apps on the Windows platform. I know that's strange, but some people like me are passionate really. So I started writing some applications, and then I discovered Office 365 and PowerApps. So I keep on blogging on this kind of subject. I also met a lot of people on my professional life, and some of these people were MVP. So they gave me the opportunity to speak on some events, and that gave me finally the opportunity to become an MVP since 2 years right now.
Excellent. So who's the main MVPs that you know out there that kind of introduce you to all this?
He will be pleased to be quoted there. It's Johan Topno. I think he's not an MVP anymore, but he's the one I met, and he was really active on planning and organizing some events in France and also in Switzerland. So I had a lot of opportunity to speak and to meet people on these events.
Gotcha. So your current MVP status, it's under business applications, right?
You're right, yeah.
Fantastic. So tell me a bit about your journey then with Flow and what's your experience with PowerApps?
Well, Flow was the how can I say that? The logical next step after PowerApps, because I first discovered PowerApps because of the fact that I was already developing mobile apps, as I said. So the automation was the logical second part of the development. So Flow was for me first like an IFTTT platform. 2 years ago, it was really what Microsoft focused on. And then I discovered that Flow can just be more than that, integrated with all the other applications on Office 365 and more precisely with PowerApps and SharePoint Online. So as I am a consultant, I'm doing consultancy on SharePoint Online first, and Microsoft Teams, PowerApps, and Flow. So I know that all that universe can just talk nice together thanks to Flow. And thanks to PowerApps, we can now have also a business application, a front end to interact with.
Interesting. So you mentioned there before that you come from Paris, but you're working in Switzerland. What have you gone there for work, or as in what's led you to Switzerland, or is it lifestyle?
It was an ambition from me to go to Switzerland because of the lifestyle. We all know that Switzerland is recognized for its lifestyle and the quality of the life there. But it was a job opportunity that made me come here. now since more than 3 years. And also it was a big change for me because moving from Paris to Switzerland is a huge, how can I say that? A big step forward because the life in Paris is really not the same as the life here. And also it was a change in my job because I used to work in a big company as an internal IT man. And then I became, when traveling to Switzerland, a consultant, so doing consultancy for companies. So it was my first opportunity there.
So, what do you see as the biggest difference from your Parisian lifestyle? As in, when you say it was quite different, what are the big noticeable things? Was it food, culture, lifestyle? What would you put your finger on?
Definitely lifestyle in general, and I mean that in Paris the life is two speed, a lot of stress, a lot of people, also a lot of everything. Whereas here in Switzerland, and I'm close to Geneva, life is more quiet, and also there's few people, but the people that you have here is international. I mean, in Paris, you don't have that impression because there's a lot of people and obviously a lot of French people. But there, as we are fewer people, we see a lot of international people coming from everywhere and working in Geneva. That's the big change for me.
Wow, wow. And but tell me, Paris is famous for its culinary or food dishes. What do you miss the most food wise from Paris?
Food-wise, maybe the diversity because it's easy in Paris to find everything anywhere and at any time. Whereas here in Geneva, it's more complicated because things are closed or a lot of things are closed on Sunday, for example, and the store closed sooner during the week. So that's the biggest difference for me. Yeah, you can find easily anywhere and anywhere you want, and well, sorry, when you want anything in Paris.
Yeah. So I've been to France a few times. In fact, just last weekend I was in Nice.
Oh,
And
okay.
and my favorite thing to get, well, in France is always a baguette. I just find that nobody bakes bread anywhere as good, anywhere in the world, as what you get in France, right?
Definitely, the bakery is the biggest thing in France we have because we miss it so much when we travel around the world. I mean, in Geneva, in Switzerland, that's kind of the same, but I know that if you travel to the US or even in Canada or closer to France in Spain or Italy, it's definitely not the same. I understand you.
So tell me, when is the best time of day to buy your baguette? Well, it's so that it's still warm.
Uh, I would say at the end of the day, around 7 p.m.
Okay,
before lunchtime. That's the perfect time.
so hang on, you're saying 7 p.m. at night is the best time to get it?
Yeah,
But you
because
said,
we have lunch at 8.
oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow, wow, wow.
yeah. In France,
Okay,
that's around 8. Yeah, but
okay.
also you can buy it on the morning during the morning, or because it's hot too, and you can take it and have it on the road to your job, for example.
Okay, so do most places that you would buy, like a patisserie or something like that, would most places have a morning batch of baguettes and an afternoon batch? Is that right?
Yeah,
Twice a
definitely.
day.
Yeah. Not more than twice a day. I would say fourth or even more.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
We eat that at any lunch. Yeah.
Yeah, I just I didn't this time I didn't get a warm baguette, and it wasn't as good as when they're
Oh yeah.
fresh from the oven.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, a little bit of ham and cheese with it, tomato maybe. Very nice, very nice.
I can only confirm what you say.
Man, I love France. Um, so tell me, when it comes to what you do in your spare time, in other words, when you're not working, what do you do in Geneva?
What I'm doing, well, I'm just going to see the places here and the nature because everything is beautiful. You know that you have the lake, you have the mountains. Every places are just nice here. and we just spend time to enjoy that nature here first. That's the very first thing we have. We also have the chance to have a garden here, so from the garden we can see the mountains. We have a nice sky, blue sky with the mountains, with the sun. That's really nice. That's the very first thing we are doing here.
Mm. Do you find it more expensive though?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but Switzerland is recognized as one of the most expensive country in the world. So yeah, that's something you have to know if you plan to go and visit Switzerland. You just have to be prepared that you will spend a lot of money there.
Yeah, it's so true. Like when I was there 2 years ago, and and to buy a cup of coffee at the price you pay for it, but it's not good quality coffee,
You're right.
but it's expensive, and it's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. If you are used to pay it in the US, for example, it's cheap, but okay, it's not a good coffee for the Europeans, but it's good for the US and the Americans. But yeah, the price is is more than doubled or more than that in Switzerland. Yeah.
I mean, New Zealand is known for creating, having fantastic coffee where I come from, and, relatively inexpensive. But there's, yeah, definitely no comparison for my time in Switzerland. So do you have family with you there in Geneva?
Now only my wife. The rest of my family is on Paris.
Okay. So do you trip home much?
I used to at the beginning when I arrived there, but now, no, not that much. I think once every 2 months is.
In my books, that's quite a bit. Like I live now in London, and my family's back in New Zealand, and I'm like once every 2 years now.
Ah, so yeah, based on that definition, that's a bit more. Yeah,
Yeah, so true, so true. So you've worked with Nintex, is that right?
that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, what are your thoughts if you compare Nintex to Flow?
Oh, Nintex workflow compared to Flow, definitely Nintex is has there's a huge gap between the two solutions because I don't think that they can compete on the same subjects, on the same matters. I mean that Flow is user friendly first and is accessible for anybody. It's also more, how can I say that? Not connectable, but open to the world. I would say when I mean the world, the social media, etc. Whereas Nintex is associated to a BPM solution, so that brings a lot of BPM capacities and features that you don't really have in Flow, unless you pay for Dynamics 365, I guess, and use the Flow dedicated to that.
So do you see in time that as Microsoft continues to develop Microsoft Flow, do you think it will head more into that BPM space?
I guess so. I'm not using the common data model and the Dynamics 365 and the model-driven side of Flow and PowerApps, so I only guessing here. But what I can see is that Microsoft is doing a lot of improvement on that side because that's the side people have to pay for, unless on the free side, on the open side of PowerApps and of Flow. Microsoft is not having a lot of improvements or not at the same rhythm, I would say. So yeah, I guess that Microsoft will take and make the tools evolve more on the BBN side for Microsoft Flow. Yeah.
So when it comes to using Flow, what are the typical use cases that you are applying Flow to?
Use cases linked to SharePoint. Really, that's the first and the main ones. When an item is created, do something, or for a selected item, do something, an approval step. And also, I'm using Flow a lot for, how can I say that too? A kind of webhook HTTP trigger, you know that? That's a way to interact with Office 365 world, but without having to discuss about authentication, about security. So that has to be done in a secure way, I would say. But it's really for me the true potential and the true power of Flow applied to Office 365.
Yeah, interesting. Do you think becoming an MVP has affected your career in any way?
I guess, yeah, definitely. Because that gave me the opportunity to get my own tenant first, to be aware of Microsoft roadmap and discussions with the product owners. And also, as I got my tenant, I was able to do a lot of testing, a lot of recording, and just improve myself, I would say that, and just spend more time learning things. So for someone passionate, that's not a problem. I know that some people that can hear us maybe think that, there's a time for personal things and a time for professional things. But I think that you already know that when you are passionate, professional things and personal things sometimes meet each other. And that's the case for me for PowerApps. That's something I'm fond of and I was passionate about.
So then on the Power App side, what are your main user cases that that you're doing a lot of in the Power App side of things?
It really depends. It depends on my customers' scenario and what they want.
Can you give
The
some
last,
examples?
yeah, the last two apps we made was an app dedicated to be used as a service desk application, as the one that Microsoft gives a template, for example. It was an entry point for us, but we made a lot of improvement on that one. So we create a really complex application based on Power Apps, Flow, Power BI, and SharePoint Online. Another one would be an onboarding application, just to let HR people create new accounts, for example, to onboard people. OSD request application, for example. What can we have to an app that can be used to manage contracts, to generate contracts, and also the last one, the very last one, as we spend a lot of time in trainings with our customers, we hear them complaining about governance subjects. So an app that we developed was an app to rule/govern the creation of Office 365 groups with an approval process from end to end and through the approval by the IT, connected to the Graph API, for example.
Excellent. So if you could ask Microsoft for any features to be added to Power Apps or Flow, what would you ask for?
First thing would be to get responsive design on the true responsive design, responsiveness on the Canva apps, but also for the form apps related to SharePoint. Another one would be to include the guest access to Power Apps, for example. That are the two main I'm thinking of right now.
So tell us about, you got a YouTube channel, right? So that's one of the areas you contribute. Tell us a bit about your YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's a way for me to contribute, as you said, and it was an opportunity for me to just present things and explain things differently. Because you know that blog articles are a way. It's great that people can Google us or Google something and find our articles, but I think it's an old-fashioned way. So one of the modern ways to create videos, I used to try that first without any sound during my videos, so I didn't have to care about my voice and the recording I have made. But now I'm doing another series of videos called PowerApps Flow How to and Why, during which I'm just taking 5 questions that people ask me during my trainings or from my blog, and I just answer these 5 questions in my video. It lasts maximum 25 minutes, so 5 minutes per question. So, and that's a way for people to discover or to get answers to their questions in a modern way, I guess.
So are is your voice, are you using French for those videos?
Yeah, I'm using French, and that's something people are happy with because a lot of people reach out to me and say that there's a lack of resources on the French side for Power Apps and Flow. And so a lot of people found myself and my resources because they are Googling just something about Power Apps in French. And I think that's important for me to keep on doing these things in French because that's what people need and that's what they like right now with my contributions.
Yeah, I 100% agree. You know, as in all languages and cultures that, if you like, and get involved with Power Apps, Flow, or Microsoft Business Apps in general, I agree. There doesn't seem to be enough content out there in the languages that people are using it in. So like I think the fact that you're doing it is in French is fantastic. I know people are doing Spanish content as well, are probably the two big ones that I'm seeing. So yeah, I think it's brilliant that you stick with your native language and educate that whole community. Yeah. So what are the MVPs in the Flow and PowerApp space do you kind of network with and or follow what they're doing quite regularly?
I'm not following a lot of MVPs. I know some, and I see some tweets about some MVPs on Twitter, obviously. So I know that Serge Lucas, for example, is the Dr. Flo, and obviously, if you Google anything, you find any article about him. But I am more precisely focusing on following Microsoft staff on the PowerApp side. If I quote Audrey Gordon, for example, and his colleagues, that these are the people that I'm following and who I'm inspired by.
Fantastic. Well, it's been very interesting finding this out. So I got a couple of wrap-up questions that I like to go through, which are not necessarily on topic, but they might make you think a little bit. And I also learn a bunch of stuff. So when I say think a little bit, as in they won't be kind of like snap answers. So my first one is, what's the best purchase you've made under $100? It can't be food or wine.
Oh man, that's hard to answer right now. I would say my oh man, that's difficult. My surround system, my Bose surround system, it's under $100, and I just love the sound that it makes.
Yeah, so true. For it to be under 100, I find that hard to believe. I mean, my Bose headset, like this is just the ones that I travel with all the time. They were like 300. So, was it a gift to get it under 100?
It was my gift to me.
Very nice. The best type of gifts.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. So what's the app that you use most often on your mobile phone?
We have an app in France that is called Le Bon Coin. That's an app where people can just sell their own things and ask for anything. I would say that that's one of the app I use the most. And also we have another app called D-Labs. That's a community app where people just register some deals that they found on internet, where prices are good or prices are more than good, or there are errors, mistakes on the prices, etc. So you can just like, unlike, make a deal become hot or cold if it's a big deal or not. So these are the two apps that I spend a lot of time on.
Nice.
And also WhatsApp for sure, because we all use that.
I think we all live on WhatsApp. That's for real. Matthieu, it's been great talking to you. If people want to connect with you online, particularly around your blog, perhaps your Twitter, how can they find you?
Yeah, definitely. So you can find me on Twitter at Matthieu Megaly. Just find me like that. On my LinkedIn also, feel free to reach out to me. And on my personal website, matthieumegaly.fr. Let me spell it for people who don't speak in French. MATTHIEU MEGALY.fr.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you're a Dynamics professional, either ready to take the next step in your career or planning to join the Microsoft MVP program and you're looking for mentorship, feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn. Full show notes can be found at nz365guy.com/92. See you next week.